Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Greg, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Would a potential Paramount-Warner Brothers merger make a sports behemoth? Plus, Emmanuel Acho chats his Fox Sports exit. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thanks so much for joining us to close out the week. As every weekday, we're chatting the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have Paul Rabel of the Premier Lacrosse League on later to chat the PLL Championship. But first, let's dive right into the shoot-around.
Yeah, and let's start in the WNBA, Renee, as the playoff picture is now set with number 1 seed Minnesota taking on the 8th-seeded expansion Golden State Valkyries this weekend. This is Lynx star Nafisa Collier solidified her MVP case this week, becoming the second WNBA player ever to finish the regular season, shooting over 50% from the floor, 40% from three-point range, and 90% from the free throw line. That's insane. Yet the biggest, most tastiest matchup this weekend is the 4 versus 5 matchup between the Phoenix Mercury playing the defending champions New York Liberty. That's going to be a great one. It should be great, especially coming off a regular season that we saw hit historic numbers in terms of ratings across ESPN and ABC, the most watched season with a 6% increase from last year. For the 25 games they had, it's about an average of 1.3 million. So fantastic numbers we've seen, which are going to roll right into the excitement of the MVP race that we've had, and Nafisa Collier trying to complete the trifecta after winning MVP for Unrivaled and the WNBA All-Star game. Then also 3-time MVP Asia Wilson, Alyssa Thomas looking for her first. It's going to come down to so many little details. I know voting does end Friday, so we should know hopefully pretty soon. And then also to note, playoff seedings do have a change in terms of the format because we have a 1-1-1 3-game series for the first round, a 5-game for the second, and then a very new best of 7, which I'm so excited for. So it's going to go fast at the beginning, but then really slow down once it gets towards the end. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Orioles quietly promoted GM Mike Elias as president of baseball operations, this before the start of the season. This all according to The Athletic, and they're now looking for a new GM to work under him. Now, Elias led the Orioles to back-to-back postseason appearances in 2023 and 24, but they're currently in last place in the AL East this season, which led Elias to fire manager Brandon Hyde back in May. So what do we think of this? For Elias, who was the MLB Executive of the Year, Hyde was the Manager of the Year. That was back in 2023 with that 101 winning Orioles team. It's a massive drop-off when you look at 2023 and 24 to this past season. So after Hyde was fired and then Tony Mansolino was stepping in as the interim, they have had a better end of the season. They're looking to build off of that. But most importantly, now finalizing some front office moves. We saw them hire scouting director Danny Haas as their special assistant to the GM, coming from the Nationals, returning back to the Orioles, I should
should say. But now they're looking to get some others in place. So there have been some rumors that they could promote one of their assistant GMs to now GM. Or I know on September 11th, Mark Fizan, the MLB.com insider, mentioned that they were considering Josh Barfield from the White Sox, who said he's not leaving Chicago. So now other names such as Cal Ripken Jr., Gabe Kapler, Skip Schumacher have been brought into the mix as potential. So looking to finalize their front office now.
All right, after a first week in the NFL that saw record ratings for the broadcast networks, the stage is now set for another massive NFL weekend with Sunday's Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl rematch on Fox with Tom Brady and co., which could set viewership records as it's being broadcast to 100% of the entire country this weekend.
Ooh.
What do we think?
Okay, so we saw NFL ratings have their highest week one record, I should say, with a 5% increase from last year. And one of those big games was the Eagles win over the Cowboys, which had about 28.3 million viewers
on NBC.
Without having a delay, you have no idea what that number could have been. So now we know the Eagles, the Chiefs have always had historic numbers individually and, of course, when they've played each other. And when you look at this rematch, it makes you wonder, with all the storylines, what could this possibly bring? I know Rob Gronkowski mentioned this is also kind of like a dethroning of the Chiefs. It feels like it's happening. And I think that's one of the biggest things, regardless who you're a fan of, Eagles, or maybe the Chiefs, or nobody, neither of those teams, you're looking forward to great football. So beyond the potential 2-0 start for Philly, it's a potential 0-2 start for the Chiefs, 0-3 dating back to the Super Bowl. And I think that also looking at how they're in that nationally televised 4:25 slot with just the Broncos, Colts, and Panthers, Cardinals as the other games, it's a lot for this primetime game to 100%. Definitely succeed what was a record for last year's Week 2 game that we saw.
And by the way, the Super Bowl between these two, most watched Super Bowl ever, 127.7 million people watching that.
Yes.
Well, what would be a major media merger in the sports world, the Wall Street Journal says the newly formed Paramount Skydance is preparing a bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, home to TNT Sports, TBS, and the HBO Max streaming service. So could a combined CBS and TNT Sports catalog rival that of ESPN? Let's take a look at our main event. All right, let's bring in Ryan Glasspiegel, media and entertainment reporter here at Front Office Sports. So Ryan, what do we know so far about this potential bid here?
So the Wall Street Journal reported Thursday that Paramount Skydance is, quote, preparing a majority cash bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery was planning on splitting between its streaming and studio assets, splitting those from their cable networks like TNT, TBS, CNN, and True TV. This bid from Paramount Skydance would reportedly be for the entire company. Paramount Skydance is backed by the Ellison family. It's operated by David Ellison. His father, Larry Ellison, is the founder of Oracle.
How much would a merger like this truly rival and honestly raise the bar in terms of programming, content, talent, and so much more in sports coverage?
Oh, it would be huge, Renee. There is so much sports between these two entities. So first of all, they have the entire NCAA tournament together. CBS Paramount has a big NFL package. They're getting all of the UFC next year. They're in the Big Ten. They have the Masters, the PGA Championship, the PGA Tour. And then TNT and TBS have MLB playoffs. They have half of the NHL. They have half of the college football playoffs starting next year, sub-licensing that from ESPN. They've got Unrivaled. They have they also have some Big 12 rights, some Big East rights, some NASCAR rights. So pretty much everything besides the NBA, the SEC, and the Olympics, which NBC controls, is going to be involved in the mix of this. Also the French Open on TNT. Like, there's just so much that it's impossible to keep it all straight off the top of one's head.
And if that's the case, if let's just say hypothetically they do get this package, could this rival ESPN in terms of being a giant behemoth?
Yeah, you have an interesting debate between CBS, TNT, ESPN, and then also NBC, between like what they've got with Sunday Night Football, the Olympics, they've got a lot of NASCAR. They have the English Premier League. Oh, and I forgot Paramount, by the way, has Champions League. So it's like another, like, yeah, you just every minute I'm like, oh wait, there's another thing I got to add to the
Well, also we've heard rumors of some others that might be getting involved in the bid. Maybe Comcast. Have you been hearing any conversation around who else could be looking to put a bid in?
Yeah, the research analyst Rich Greenfield tweeted that today. It's interesting. So Comcast famously, once it looked like Disney was buying like a lot of the Fox assets, all of a sudden Brian Roberts and Comcast got into a big bidding war. It seems like a little bit of an odd fit with them and WBD, considering that they are spinning off their cable channels like MSNBC and CNBC into a new company called Versant. And so it would be odd because this Ellison bid is for everything. I mean, those studio assets are really a big deal. I know we're a sports show, but when you look at combining the libraries of HBO Max and Paramount Plus, all of a sudden you're looking at just massive scale and entertainment. And so that's another thing that definitely Comcast would be looking for in terms of trying to beef up Peacock. But as far as these linear cable networks, it seems like it would be an odd fit given what their strategy presently is.
Glass, with about a minute left with you, Fox, by the way, the succession battle is over. Lachlan Murdoch is going to be in charge of the company, and what is he sort of saying about the future of Fox?
Yeah, as our Eric Fisher wrote this week, this is a positive sign for Fox's ability to continue to compete for premium sports rights, because right now, the succession battle is over. It's now a lot more certain that somebody who is aligned with Rupert's vision is going to be controlling the company. And so I think sports leagues can breathe a sigh of relief that Fox isn't going to just get totally derailed.
Glass, thank you so much. And coming up next, everyone, on Front Office Sports Today, Emmanuel Acho talks about his exit from FS1. That's next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. And then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I mean, I've ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions. Again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering, when do the Pistons start?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado. Well, former NFL players and Fox Sports personalities Emmanuel Acho and LaShawn Shady McCoy all going to have a new live post-game NFL show on YouTube called Speak Easy. This, of course, coming out in September of this month. So let's talk to one of the stars of this new show, Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit more about this new show that you got.
Man, I wanted viewers, I wanted football fans, I wanted sports fans to have more content after the game ends. After the game ends, it almost like you come to a screeching halt. You're on your phone, you're talking to people, you're responding to people. Why not give fans a studio show to watch? And even within the first week of our studio show, we've had the honor of having Lane Johnson call us from his car directly after the Eagles beat their week 1 opponent, and Jalen Carter spat on a player. Lane Johnson's talking about it. Deion Dawkins, Sunday night. The Bills just make a miraculous comeback versus the Baltimore Ravens. Deion Dawkins, he hops on FaceTime from his family suite with his family eating chicken wings in the background. Aaron Jones, after the brilliant Minnesota Vikings comeback, J.J. McCarthy, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Everybody's wondering what in the world happened in that game. Aaron Jones from the locker room in Chicago hops on FaceTime and tells us J.J. McCarthy went into the huddle after the pick 6, and he looked his whole teammates in the eyes, all of them in the eyes, and he said, "Is there anywhere else you'd rather be?" And that was the galvanizing point of that game. And so in the speakeasy, you get athletes immediately after the game, unfiltered, just really authentic. And we just wanted to create an opportunity for fans to really engage. Like, we're a show that looking at the comments, shouting people out, asking people, hey, what do y'all want to talk about? What do y'all want to ask the athletes? So it's been really fun thus far, and it's only the beginning.
Yeah, I love that you can capitalize on the excitement of the moment, because I agree with you. You're still riled up and ready to talk more football, but also, as you mentioned, the access of players that directly after, even in this first week of your show, want to jump on and talk about it. But I want to talk about also the name, because Emmanuel, Speak Easy, and you also have an LLC that also has Speak in it. Any correlation to Speak, or is that just your brand that you're locked into? Where does this name come from? I'm curious.
A couple things. I realized when I was looking at the market, hey, where's the vacancy in sports content? It's at night, Renee. It's at night, Baker. Like, I was tired of trying to compete against the First Takes of the world and the Get Ups of the world. So if you're going to do a sports show and you're going to do it at night, Speakeasy makes a lot of sense. Well, furthermore, somebody came to me when I was in Paris about a month and a half ago, and they said, yo, I love you on Speak for Yourself. I was like, I haven't done that show in about 13 months now. So I was like, hey, rather than trying to create and teach viewers, teach Baker a completely new name, After Hours, teach Renee a completely new name, The Sports Bar. Why don't I just leverage the IP of a show I spent 5 years building? And so I named it Speakeasy, because people know me and colloquially know me from, Speak or Speak for Yourself. And everybody knows what a speakeasy is.
Very true. Very true.
Vibe.
And as we're talking about, obviously, Speak, you were on Fox Sports for a very long period of time. Can you address, leaving that network and sort of building this on your own?
Second hardest thing I've ever had to do as an adult is building Speakeasy in roughly 54 days. Obviously, our show and all shows in LA got terminated, I think it was July 14th. And so if I wanted to start a show on September 4th, week 1 of Thursday night opening NFL Cowboys-Eagles, I had 54 days, I believe, to get that done. In order to start and launch a show by yourself in 54 days, completely self-funded, there was no time. It's been a grind.
Well, congrats to you on making it happen, though. Let's give you your flowers. But also, as you mentioned, so you had no idea this was coming. Essentially, when you were terminated, then you started planning. There was no plan beforehand or even conversations beforehand that you could prepare for what's next?
I would say no and yes. Did I have an idea this was coming? Anybody who's been in the industry long enough, shakeup is always possible, especially if you're not rating very well. I mean, Fox had shaken up shows 3 consecutive years. It had just never impacted me. They launched the Carton Show. They moved that. They launched Breakfast Ball. They had Shannon Sharp on Undisputed. They moved that. They launched a new show with Skip at Undisputed. First things first, it was in the morning. First things first, it moves to the afternoon. So for 3 consecutive years, Fox had shaken up things at the network. So I wasn't super surprised that it happened. I was surprised when it happened, and as a result, I was not prepared for it to happen, which is why I had to move into a dead sprint. But I've been in the game long enough to know anything can happen at any moment in time. And also, as a pro athlete, especially a former pro athlete that wasn't like the top 5, top 10 athlete, you're used to things happening on a moment. Like, I got cut the day before Thanksgiving by Chip Kelly when I was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I'm ready to go play a Thanksgiving game, go back to Philly, have some turkey, have some this, have some that. Chip Kelly calls me into his office, Emmanuel, you got cut. Renee, I break my thumb in a preseason game after game 2. I come out of surgery. I'm still halfway sedated. I get called into Chip Kelly's office. Hey, Emmanuel, we're going to have to release you, man. Thanks so much for your services. I'm packing up my bag with a broken thumb, a huge trash bag. You're packing up your locker, and with a broken thumb, I'm taking my cleats, I'm taking my jersey, I'm taking my shoulder pads, I'm taking my Gatorade bottles. So when you live in the industry of a pro athlete or on television, anything can happen at any moment in time.
Yeah, very, very good point. But we had a former ESPN anchor, Stan Verrett, on just the other day, and he's like, look, the media industry, especially sports media, is changing so much, but this is a good opportunity for independent creators to sort of capitalize on this. I guess just your thoughts on the evolution of sports media, and do you feel like this opens a door for people like you and LaShawn McCoy to really fill this gap here?
It absolutely opens a door if you're willing to walk through it. You know, when Fox let everybody go, you know, you get the text messages like, hey, it's going to be better for you. Things are going to work out. They're only going to work out, Renee, if you make them work out. Like, they're only going to be better for you if you make them better. There is absolutely gold that can be mined right now, but are you willing to get the pickaxe? Are you willing to get to mining? Are you willing to put in the 54 days of work without rest, working 19-hour days? Like, are you willing to do what it takes to make it work? There is absolutely a space right now for all independent creators. But what does that look like for me right now? It looks like getting the team, building out a studio, watching the games, game ends, going on air until about 10, 11 p.m. at night. I'm currently the janitor cleaning the bathrooms, and I'm the host, and I'm the producer, and I'm the designer. I'm currently all of those things. So if you're willing to put in the work in this era, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers, are they there?
Yeah,
the same grind as an athlete is the same grind as a broadcaster. I always agree with that.
Exactly. Well, of course, you can watch Emmanuel and LaShawn's show, Speakeasy, of course, on YouTube, and of course, everywhere else, podcasts and everything else is available, right?
Correct. Primary landing spot right now, youtube.com/@Speakeasy. Don't forget the @ symbol. YouTube has simply changed how you find them. youtube.com/@Speakeasy. That's where we will reside. It's fun. It's a fun time.
All right, we got a lot more front office sports today headed your way right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
There's a little bit of a kerfluffle earlier today when there's an exception taken to a putt that wasn't given, and just the reactions were pretty unilateral from both sides of like, hey, that's not behavior that we're going to tolerate at this type of competition.
Can you talk to me about kerfluffle again? Can you run that word back? I've never heard that word before.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Who wants to go to Chicago in February for a Super Bowl? Hey, the NFL can host outdoor parties on Lake Michigan. Stop the madness at this point. But now I take a look at the Denver Broncos. Always fun in the Mile High City. Why? Because what a home field advantage. It's at elevation. It's going to be cold. It might snow, and Denver's going to have that advantage. You know what Denver goes? We're going to build a world-class facility that's going to be a dome.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. Well, it's a big weekend ahead for the Premier Lacrosse League. This is the U.S. Bank Championship heads to New Jersey this weekend, plus some big news on the women's lacrosse front. So for that and so much more, let's bring in the co-founder and president of PLL, Paul Rabel. Paul, good to have you here in studio with us. And congratulations on another great year for you guys at PLL. Tell us about the championship this weekend. Big news here.
Well, first, it's great to be back with you guys. Championship week now we call it because of the activations we're doing from start to finish. It's going to be at Sports Illustrated Stadium, newly named, formerly the Red Bull Arena. We're expecting a huge crowd, 12:30 on ABC. Two of the best teams I've seen in the professional ranks in a long time. Number 1 seed in the East, number 1 seed in the West. We have the New York Atlas, so you get a last-minute home crowd push, which is really cool against the Denver Outlaws. We're just ecstatic.
Yeah, and when you have a championship week and a large crowd that you're anticipating, it's off the heels of all the great work you guys have done with investments and growth in the league, including the partnership and stakeholder of ESPN.
Yes.
I'm curious, how involved, I mean, obviously there's a lot more in the future with ESPN. How involved have they been? What's this relationship been like? And how has it really helped the PLL?
They're super involved, and your media partner is your biggest and most important. And you think about our league and the season year over year strategically with them. And now that they are investors as well, and we just did a new 5-year media rights deal, a lot goes on behind the scenes that makes this all worth it. When you see viewership up year over year, a lot of it is attributed to our partnership with ESPN. So you think about game windows, you think about lead-in programming, you think about promoting programming, all the stuff that ESPN can bring to the table, including digital and social and streaming. So getting a window like ABC will help boost our ratings and the awareness and validation of the product, and they've just been extraordinary to work with.
And obviously this also comes to the heels of a really big announcement on the women's side of things. We knew that there was a women's lacrosse league for some of the tournaments, but now we actually have a full season coming up next year. Tell us about this big news here.
Well, that's also part of our conversations with ESPN as we work with their research and data team that's led by Shara Lynn, and we understand the goals and objectives in Bristol for ESPN, and women's sports is big, and it's backed by great reception from fans of the games that are out there, whether it's basketball, soccer, or now lacrosse. So we sat with them a year ago and explored beyond the championship series for the WLL. What would a summer season look like? What type of inventory could we get? And they were super encouraging around the women's game. And what we've seen in our industry is incredible growth over the last decade at girls' youth participation. At the collegiate level, there's double the amount of Division I programs, the women's side and the men's side, and then they're in the Olympics for the first time in history come LA 28. So these big macro data points, and they just don't have a pro league. You have huge stars like Charlotte North, who's sort of the queen of lacrosse, and then you have emerging stars down in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, like Chloe Humphrey, who won the Tewaratana as a freshman. So getting an opportunity to work on the women's side of the game is extra special.
And I love that with this expansion, there's a draft, there's more players, there's more opportunities.
Yes.
So, Paul, you're at the core of all this for men's, women's lacrosse, the Olympics, as you mentioned, coming up soon. What is next for lacrosse? I mean, you're doing so much to continue to grow the game in terms of investments. What else can we expect?
Well, as you guys know, when we started the league, we were touring, and we had 6 teams and no city affiliation because we needed to learn a lot. At the time in 2019, there were 15 million lacrosse fans, according to an MRI Simmons report. Now there are 48 million. So this touring model, growth from 6 to 8 teams, putting the 8 teams into cities, bringing on the WLL, that's helped us grow. I would say the next stage over the next several years is going to be looking at a home and away model for the first time. And does that unlock individual ownership? Do we go down that path of selling teams? What's our viewpoint on stadiums? Building civic connection with fan bases, really diving into local audiences. You know, we almost reverse engineered it, where we built a national property first, where most team sports leagues start at the local level. So what's next for us is continuing to invest in these local markets of our 8 PLL teams, our 4 WLL teams, look at the prospect of flipping the touring model to home and away, increases tonnage, getting our players better wages year over year and getting them living in those markets and practicing more.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like this is a very quick process. Now, I'm sure for you it doesn't feel quick as you're living every day. But when you look at in reality, bigger picture, how fast you guys are picking up major investors and media deals and the WLL, there's so much positive growth happening. Is this an accelerated, or is this right on cue with how you thought the timeline was going to roll out?
Well, there's a balance as founders. My brother and I, when we first raised the initial seed capital, was you have to be ambitious and you have to be sober in projections. And getting that balance right, fortunately for us, has been around the mark of where we are today.
Congratulations on all the success. We know next week there'll be something good happening, and the week after that, another big thing happening with you guys. So always amazing to see what's happening with PLL. Of course, the U.S. Bank Championship in New Jersey, Sunday on ABC. Of course, you can watch New York and Denver go for that title. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So that's going to do it for this edition of the show, everyone. We'll see you next week for way more fun. Bye.
Have a good one.